So today's video is to talk about what most people ask about when I'm never even talking about it. I'll be talking about a beautiful national park and they'll go, "Hey Mark, what's that gray box?" Or I'll be talking about this fantastic bike ride we're on and they'll go, "Hey Mark, what's the gray box?" And I'm like, "What about the bike ride or the national park?" Okay, finally, let's go check the gray box out. Now, like every good technician, you need an assistant. So let me see if my assistant will help me. Suzette, I need a Fifi. Excellent. I'm actually going to turn off the power right now. I want you to notice what I just did here. I just opened this and the whole metal is moving. This is all kind of corroded and everything. And actually, this one's in pretty darn good shape. You should see some of the equipment that we've seen over the years. We've been RVing almost 4 years now. We're coming up on our 4-year mark in June. We've been at about 100 parks in our career here. I'm turning the power off now. This cord here is actually to our Hughes Autoformer. I will talk about the Autoformer later in this video so that I can be a little bit more accurate in my description of it. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that an excellent video about the Hughes Autoformer is actually on the Hughes Autoformer company's website, and it's done by none other than the RV Geeks, who just do excellent product reviews and anything technical. We've had this since day one. So you're looking at one that's almost 4 years old here. You can see that when the line comes in, the Autoformer's job is to boost your voltage if your voltage ends up getting below an unsafe value. If my memory is correct, I think it starts boosting at 112 volts. If that's not correct, I will correct that in a text above what I just said. So at a certain point, this unit will boost my voltage, which will then satisfy the next unit in line. I have a Progressive Industries EMS. It's EMS-PT50X. I remember when I bought this almost 4 years ago that it was the kind of the de facto favorite by RVers. And it had the best guarantee, so that's why I bought it. I haven't had any issues with it. Since then, the one that actually will serve my needs the best is the Hughes Bulldog unit with the Bluetooth ability to communicate with you via Bluetooth. And that's actually the one that I'm going to be plugging in today. I'm going to be testing it. Full disclosure, I actually contacted Hughes to have this thing sent to me at no cost so I can test it. I can tell you that we have had probably 100 different companies contact even a small channel like ours to test things and, you know, show them to our audience, and that we're just not about that. I mean, we're more about showing you the fun of the things to do while you're RVing, and maybe even a little nonsense thrown in. We're not a totally serious channel where we're going to spend our whole retirement talking about stuff like this. But this has been a near and dear subject to me because there's a lot of times that we'll meet newbies that they don't even have any of this equipment. They just plug their RV into the Pedestal right away, and it's just kind of ridiculous to be doing that, to have something so expensive like this plugged in without any protection. So since day one, I had the Progressive Industry ones, and what I didn't like about this was the fact that if the power would go out and I wanted to know why it went out, I would have to come out here, I would have to open up this box, and then I would have to look at this screen. Okay, so you can see that Sue just turned this on, and as this scrolls through, it says line 1 is 119 volts and 0 amp draw, and it says I'm at 60 hertz, and E0 is what you want to see. That says you have no problems. Line 1 is 119 volts, 0 amp draw. Line 2 is 119 volts, 0 amp draw, and we're at 60 hertz. And E0 says, why don't you zoom over here, Sue? This is the error codes. And E0 says, what's that top line say, honey? I can't see it.
Normal operating condition.
Right. So these are the things that you want to monitor. Now I can tell you that you can never tell if a campground has good power just by looking at it. We were in some beautiful places in the Shipshewana area in Indiana. And I mean, very new, very modern looking campground. And I plugged this thing in, and it said that I had a low voltage condition or something like that. Well, then what you have to be prepared on, you know, after you spend $300 or $400 on a gadget like this, you have to be prepared for the campground owner to come over and go, oh, no, there's nothing wrong with our campground. I'm here to tell you, believe your unit, don't believe your campground owner. We did not plug in there. We ran on generators the rest of the day. We canceled the remainder of our stay there, and we left because they were kind of uncooperative to fix it. Since that time, we have never had problems until the periodic, every once in a while, this thing will discover an issue, and then we don't plug in, or we move campsites, and then we're back in business. So I'm not going to have any campground tell me that it's my rig or my equipment. No, it's their particular pedestal, and we've had plenty of different things that happen. One of the guys that we've camped with a number of times owns a Prevo, and we're not going to mention names, Corey or George, but one of the things they taught me was that these breakers at 50 amps, if they're basically have lived a life where they've been pulling 50 amps their entire time, they get to the point where they're pretty well tired and worn out. And I've already come into some campgrounds where I never had any problem at all with any power issues. All of a sudden I plug into a 50 amp and I'm tripping the main breaker. If that happens, that means that that main breaker at that campground needs to be replaced, because the minute then I would call the campground office and say, hey, I'm tripping your 50 amp breaker, there's nothing wrong with my rig, there's something, that breaker's a little weak. They'll begrudgingly come out, they'll put a new breaker in, and I'll have no problem the remainder of the stay. So don't be bashful about doing that. These big rigs, they can use every bit of the ampacity that's sent to them. We're going to be replacing our Progressive Industry ones with one from the Hughes company, which will solve one of the problems we have, and that is every time we would have a power issue happen, we'd have to come out here and investigate it inside this box. Now, why do we have this box? We have noticed from day one, we knew that this unit here wasn't overly water protected. But for the most part, all this equipment has been, as expensive as it has been very well protected in here. The other reason that we chose and will continue to choose to have this power equipment in this box is that once you're looking at this box, you know something's in there, but you really don't know what it is. And if it's not that impressive looking, other than it being a gray box, you'll go, yeah, I'll go steal somebody else's stuff
Oh, jeez.
instead of stealing this. So let's check out what Hughes Autoformer has sent Sue and I. Looks like the picnic table is pretty hard. Hey, Sue! Ah, excellent. All right. So, one of the things they sent us was a stand. And this stand works for the 30 amp or the 50 amp Autoformers. So, they did not make this stand when we first bought our Autoformer. And I'm really happy they came up with this. You can see that it has 2 steps in it. If you have the smaller unit, it would sit in the middle. Our unit will sit in the top. Strap this on in case some kids or something in the neighborhood flip this over. It's not like your stand, which you buy, would end up flying away. This is another thing that they did not sell back in the day when I bought mine.
Let me see the cover.
The cover here, it's a rain cover.
Oh.
And I don't know if they sell one for the smaller Autoformer. I mean, logic would say that they do.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
But our bin takes care of that, right?
Right. I believe on the side of this unit, on the side of the unit, they have the error codes. E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, E6, E9, surge protection used up. You don't want that one. You'll see that they have no E0 like I have on the one that I have right now. Well, the reason I think they chose that is that when everything's okay, it's really not an error. And Progressive Industry just said E0, you have a zero error. And I understand that. What this company has decided that what their permission for you to proceed and that nothing's wrong is the fact that the face of this will light up with a white color. White is okay. If you were to plug this in and you would get one of these error codes, I'm thinking this will be red. Sometimes people might be bothered by the glow. For instance, this guy next door has got this power pole real close to his rig. Maybe they don't like the glow of this all the time, or maybe you don't want to attract attention to the neighborhood you're in, that you've got this expensive gadget sitting outside. That's why they made this plastic sheet that you can choose to stick on here, and it sticks over the majority of the logo so that when the Bulldog does light up at night to alert you to something, it's a much dimmer and diminished illumination. So if you have a 50 amp rig, you know that you have a line 1 coming in with a particular voltage and ampacity you're using. You also have a particular line 2 that comes in with a particular voltage and an ampacity that you're using. If through trial and error, and it's going to be a lot easier now that I have this thing that will communicate Bluetooth to my phone, I'll be able to find for sure the easy way where I can plug this into my rig and know that I'm monitoring line 2, and then I can go around in my with my Bluetooth, and if I know that I have one line that's got 117 volts on it, I can plug this into different sockets in my rig until I find 117 volts, and now I know that I'll have this on one line and I'll have the other one that I have. I actually have 2 of these right now already, so this is the 3rd one I'll have. I will be able to always look at both legs and tell what the voltage is. For our Progressive Industries, it's worked fine. It's the EMS PT50X. This was a lifetime guarantee 4 years ago when I bought it. That might be the reason why I bought it over the Bulldog. I can't even remember if the Bulldog existed at the time. I almost think it didn't. And then for a while, this was, I believe, a 3-year unit guarantee. Now it's lifetime. Wow. So it's every bit as good a guarantee as the Progressive. Wow. And by virtue of having the Bluetooth function to it to be able to tell me things, it certainly is more to our liking. So for a while, this is what the Hughes Autoformers shipped with. For the longest time we used this, but then sooner or later, you know, because it's not made for that, the thing eventually died on us, and we weren't able to use it anymore. Okay, so these are made actually right here in California. I could jump in the car and I'd be a half an hour away from this place. And if it wasn't for COVID, we would probably jump to this factory because it's proudly made here in California. When you plug this thing in, all of these bingo lights light up. The Hughes Autoformer has a surge protection built into it, 4,800 joules. That's fairly high in the ranking of surge protectors. That surge protector actually is replaceable. And when you order the replacement, and I will put on the screen how much it is. I don't want to say now because I would kind of be guessing, but I know what it looks like. And the replacement kit that's sent to you, they come with a special drill bit to be able to drill this rivet out. There's a rivet here, and there's a rivet here. And then this top comes off, and it's literally kind of a plug and play module. And then when you put the top back on, it comes with the 3 screws to bolt it back up. Huh. This particular unit also is a surge protector. It also has a replaceable surge protector module in it. I believe it is also 4,800 joules. I will check that. And the surge protection module is free replacement if your lightning strike or whatever would happen the first 2 years of ownership. Wow. You first come from the power. You give the Autoformer its opportunity to boost the voltage if it needs to be boosted. And then the boosted voltage then is monitored, and if after boosting it it's still not enough, then this unit will shut down and not allow you to operate your RV and damage things. We've already had to replace this plug. I carry a infrared temperature probe, and one time I was shining it on here and I noticed that my plug was relatively warm. I don't remember what the number was. You could certainly hold on to it, no problem. You could tell that it was being heated. Well, I walked around the campground. This was at National Indoor RV, and I walked around and I pointed it at everybody else's plug in the place, and it turns out we had the warmest plug. So common sense would say something's wrong with that. Well, we've replaced this plug and everything's been fine for about 3 years. And I just noticed that it's starting to come a little bit undone here. So I'm going to have to fix that. Let's look at this cover here, honey. If, for instance, we were going to be leaving this outside and you had this kind of arrangement, you can see that this Velcro is for the corner and this back Velcro would be for this. So actually I can see where that would do the trick. Yeah. Especially with that stand it's on. Right. Off the ground. It keeps it, inch and a half or so off the ground. And then we like our box. We'll probably stick with that. To set up the app on your phone to communicate with your Watchdog, I'm going to try to stop calling it the Bulldog because it's actually called the Hughes Watchdog. I went on one of the apps that I have that's called a QR scanner. I went to the QR scanner app that energizes my camera on my phone, and this is an app store for Apple QR app, and this is an Android one. And exactly the order that they told you here.
Good directions.
Yeah, really good directions. And I ended up naming our device name Myles Watchdog. And it asked me on my phone here, it said, hey, do you allow the Hughes Autoformer Watchdog to communicate with your phone? I said, yes, I can communicate. Will you allow Hughes to operate your camera to be able to scan this code and download things? And I said, yes. And so when I was all done and I finally got to the end here, this QR code is something you're going to want to save. You're going to want to save your instructions, because this is the QR code that identifies my device sitting out on the pole.
Oh, nice.
And so here we are. We can see that I'm using 270 watts right now, and my voltage on line 1 is 120. I'm hardly using any amperage. Line 2. Now let's just, for the fun of it, let's do something. Let's turn something on. Let's turn the microwave on.
You hold it.
We're going to turn it on 30 seconds.
Oh, there you go.
So you can see
live monitoring.
Yep. Like now we know forever that line 2 is
the microwave.
the microwave. Cool. You can see in the bathroom here, I'm down to 115 volts. That would be closest to line 2. That almost means that this is line 2. Or see, it's 115 right here now?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a little time delay here. This must be line 2. Okay. So when I talked about going around your area and plugging that gadget that you typically get, this is, I think, a $15 edition if you just buy this. We still have coffee in here. Let's put it on for a minute. Let's go back and look at my other one. All right, let's get the app up here. All right, we can see that it is line 2. So let's go back here in the bathroom and see.
Look at him running.
Yeah. This is line 2 again, too, because watch, this is going to, as soon as the microwave goes, this will jump back up. Microwave is off.
Microwave's off. Okay, we're up to 119.
Yeah. All right. So a lot of times I glance at this. I'll be down here brushing my teeth, and I just kind of glance at it to keep track of things. And you never look at it?
No.
I'm always looking at it.
That's why I don't.
Yeah.
I know you will.
But now I know that it's redundant. I'm looking at the same line. I'm never looking at line 1.
Where's line 1?
Well, line 1 might be something as simple as maybe that's where the air conditioners are on. Let's go turn the air conditioner on. Before we left for a walk, we had air conditioner 1 on and air conditioner 2, and we had it on for quite a while, and all of a sudden air conditioner 1 went out, and it was apparently an overcurrent situation because it blew the breaker. Now this had happened when we were in Milwaukee about almost 5 months ago, and I tried to get a new air conditioner installed because I figured it's old and I'm not going to fool around with it, but I wasn't able to get it done because of COVID supply issues, and we've been using it ever since and had no problem. Well, we just had it on, and we weren't paying attention to what we were drawing, and we were doing laundry and all sorts of things, and number 1 tripped the breaker again. We went for a walk with the breaker off, and when I came back, I intentionally turned it back on. Everything was fine, and I'm thinking it was just something of us running too many things on line 1. Well, Sue just was using the stove and doing different things, and now we lost power again, and I see we have no power at the electric up there, so I thought I would take the time to see what my Hughes would say. And my Hughes says that I had a line 1 overcurrent, and I don't know, these are probably the voltages that I had at the time and it was just frozen in time, and it's an error code E3, and I could probably press E3 and it would say what it is. Let's see if it does. Does not. Okay, I want to hit this line 1 overcurrent restart. I could read more. Your watchdog has determined that you have exceeded your amp rating. 2 issues. 1, the park circuit breaker should have tripped and apparently didn't. 2, you are drawing more amps than your RV can handle. At this point, go into the RV and turn off a major appliance such as an air conditioner or TV. You will now draw fewer amps. Push the restart button on your phone and check how many amps you're drawing. So let's see what the restart does. If
Things turning on.
yeah, everything has come back to life here. You can see that line 1 is drawn 7 amps. I think it said line 1 was the one that was overcurrent. So it is really handy that it not only it shut off the overcurrent here, but it did not trip the breaker because I did not go outside. Let's go see if the circuit breaker on the air conditioner tripped. It did not. That would have been my front air conditioner, and it would have been that breaker. You know, we're pretty spoiled where we just run whatever we want. We don't ever pay attention to anything. And it was a combination of 2 air conditioners running. You weren't running this, were you?
No, just
Were you running this?
No, just a stove.
Just a stove with the big burner.
Right.
And no.
And it was high.
No dryer was running.
No dryer.
Okay, and then maybe the residential refrigerator.
The refrigerator did. Yeah.
So I'd like to wrap up the video review of the Hughes Power Watchdog. And here would be my recommendations. First and foremost, please get something to protect the power that's coming into your coach. Whether you get the Progressive Industry one or the Hughes Power Watchdog one that we reviewed today, really doesn't matter. They're both really good units. I'll talk about some of the advantages here I think that the Hughes now has over the Progressive Industries. But remember, I had the Progressive Industries for 4 years, and I literally am replacing it now with the one that Hughes has graciously sent us here to see the advantages of having that more advanced system now. Both have lifetime guarantees, so you really can't go wrong. I think you should consider also getting the Hughes Autoformer. You have to remember that one of the jobs of the power management system that you're going to be plugging into your Pedestal is to, in fact, take care of shutting off power to your rig when the voltage is too low. Well, if you don't have something like the Hughes Autoformer to boost the voltage when it starts to get to that threshold point where your surge protector would be cutting the power off, you're going to have your power cut off more frequently. By having the Autoformer there, right at that threshold, it'll start kicking in at 113 volts and below. It'll start providing you a 10% boost, and your coach will stay powered up way longer than anybody else's inside the RV park. So a very important component to consider to add to your arsenal. The Hughes Power Watchdog Plus EPO. EPO stands for Emergency Power Off. Now, that's one of the things that I'm going to be the most interested in testing in the next coming months. I mean, realizing that we've had this thing in place now only a number of weeks. I got it a number of weeks prior to that, and I don't expect any problems. I can tell you already we've noticed different things that it does that the Progressive Industries did not, and that is where it is monitoring current overloads, and at the Watchdog itself, it shuts off the power to the coach before relying on the Pedestal circuit breaker to be healthy enough to trip. before counting on the circuit breaker in my panel to trip, I'd rather have the Watchdog tripping. It's literally an on-off contactor like a relay inside the Watchdog, and the smart electronics in there is keeping track of the current draw. So it's just an on and off switch and saying, hey Mark, you can only use this gadget for so many amps, and then I'm shutting you off. So I'm pretty impressed with that, and I don't expect it to be a nuisance as long as I learn and I get a better handle on what I can all be running all at the same time. Now that does bring up one of the advantages of the Watchdog as well. By having the Bluetooth connection, and I'm constantly able to call up the app and look at what different devices are drawing, I have already, in the last couple of weeks that we've had this, got way smarter in knowing what I should and shouldn't be running at the same time. And it's kind of been a rude awakening, and realize we've been doing this for 4 years and we're still learning. So the Bluetooth real-time readout for voltage and current has been really handy. It's also handy that if there is ever an issue that happens, the alert on it will tell you right away which failure was it. Was it an E1, an E2, an E3, and all of these are defined in the instructions, so you know what it is, and you can instantly know what happened, even though you're sitting inside your rig in your pajamas. It might be raining outside. You don't have to go out there anymore and look at the Progressive Industries readout on the pole. The Hughes actually has a higher joule rating for surge protection. It has a 4800 joule rating versus the 3850 for the Progressive Industries. Those values are both for the 50 amp model. The next thing that I want to talk about is probably the only disadvantage on the Watchdog, and it's really not a disadvantage, it's just something you have to learn. You know, we all know that Bluetooth is a great technology, but it has its distance limitations. And my coach is 44 feet long, and my power pole at my coach right over there is at the end of my coach, which is 44 feet away typically from where I'm sitting half of the time, because I'm sitting in the front of the coach by my desk. So periodically through the day, the Bluetooth connection will disconnect and then reconnect. Now, if you have the alerts set on your phone to have a chime, during the day the thing will be chiming and unchiming and chiming and unchiming, and I found that irritating. And what I had to do is I had to go in my settings and turn off the chime for the alert. That was infinitely better then. I still chose to have a banner display on mine when it would disconnect or connect, but I got to the point where I would ignore that, because 99% of the time when I would just grab the phone and press the Power Watchdog icon, I would get the information I wanted. Now, if even that banner displaying would be annoying to you, you just turn off the connection to the Bluetooth and just reconnect via Bluetooth with just a few button pushes on your smartphone. We hope you found this review helpful. You can visit our Amazon page, which you can find in a little icon that's on our YouTube channel off on the upper right hand side of the main picture banner of Myles, or in the description of just about any one of our videos. All of the items that we discussed and pretty much everything we use is in our Amazon store. We appreciate any purchases anybody makes in the Amazon store. It doesn't cost any more for you, and it helps Sue and I support the expenses of this channel, and quite honestly helps us get the proverbial emotional pat on the back that we're doing a good job and this is all worthwhile. Please consider subscribing and giving us a thumbs up if you like this video. That's the only way YouTube knows that we're a real channel and we're worth recommending for other folks to view, to help us along in the growth of this channel. So until then, stay safe, stay well connected with your Hughes PowerDog Plus EPO, and we will catch you next time.